Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming in a new Elden Ring build. Today we're finally checking out the fist weapons, which were one of the weapon types heavily buffed in 1.08. With increased attack speed and better recovery too, these things have serious potential now. The problem is the lack of range. The claws and daggers both have better range options due to the weapon length or literal buffs compared to the fists. However, the fists are the kings of poise damage, the best of the three short weapon types by far in that department. This makes them trading machines which attack so quickly, which build up so much damage with bleed potential that no one wants to take many hits from these. Plus, with the success of hits and bleed procs, your AR just skyrockets in seconds, all bolstered by the now very amazing Cragblade Ash of War here, which coats our weapon in rock, allowing for higher AR and much higher poise damage. This Ash was buffed so hard in 1.07 that they had to walk it back and nerf it instantly in the next patch. So in 1.07 they buffed the duration, they buffed how much AR you get, the poise damage you get, and stamina drain, walking back the poise part slightly in 1.08, leaving it now in a very good spot. These weapons can one cycle a new game plus Godric, which is a fantastic sign of burst potential, reach super high DPS numbers given the chance, and trade like gods in PvP. If you see someone wearing cloth and you've got these fists in your hands, you're just laughing at the poor guy because they're about to be staggered into oblivion. So this is the Bleeding Rock Fist build. Let's start with the PvP section. The basis of this build and the fighting we're doing is using the Cragblade Ash of War, which was both buffed and nerfed in the recent patches, but it's still really good, and its purpose here is vital for PvP to improve the poise damage we're dealing with these fists so that we can trade with players in PvP. The benefit of the improved AR is very nice and important, but it's mostly about that poise for PvP specifically. Combining that with the heaviest armor we can run to get the most poise possible, we're looking to be able to trade with our opponents, because if we do standing trades where we're doing the standing long combo, we're going to deal so much damage on each individual hit as that builds up with successive hits and then pops a bleed to further burst someone down. Very few people should be able to take one of those combos because it's going to deal over 2,000 damage, and that should kill most any build. If you go against someone with cloth armor or less armor, this is just funny because you're just going to infinitely stagger them. The attacks with these weapons though are so stupidly quick. You can go from nothing to a sudden running attack, which is kind of the basis of this build because the range is terrible on these things. The worst of the three short range weapons. But its speed and effectiveness makes up for that by making use of those very fast running lights or running heavies, even from standstill, leading into a standing combo, which is how we basically try to trade. If anyone's ever trying to space you out or back up or run away, you will running attack them aggressively, choosing either a light, depending on how panic rolly they are, or a heavy to slow it down and surprise them, catching them out as they delay a roll. We're looking to do that standing combo on someone whenever possible though, because the damage is going to be stupid if we can ever get it off. There's always the option of jump attacks as well, but I find the jump fist attack a bit slow and clunky, where the running attacks are much better. Compared to the daggers and claws, with this Ash active, our poise damage is just so much higher than those. And that's how we'd be able to trade with a dagger user or a claw user, or even other fist users not using the Cragblade, by maximizing our poise damage. You can see that this guy's trying to use fist weapons against me, and it's just not possible because I have the higher poise damage. With how fast our startup attacks are and those running attacks or otherwise, no one should be landing the first blow on us, and if they don't have really good poise, that'll stagger them and that leads to the massive burst swings. We also have really high bleed potential through this build, so even a few hits is probably going to cause a bleed proc and further improve our AR. That high arcane also of course allows for arcane incantations, such as the best pick for PvP, the classic Swarm of Flies, which works as our ranged harass or distraction to maybe combo in with our attacks. But I find it actually really useful as a ranged spam harass because of our really high arcane. Even a couple ticks of damage may even cause a bleed proc or finish someone off who's very low and trying to avoid direct combat. Because of that, you can just spam the flies until they eventually just die. So overall, we've got massive burst here and the highest poise setup for your close range weapons. The downside is the tiny range, and that's a problem you have to play around, but it is doable. As you can see, it's very easy to do. This is really scary if it's not given the respect it deserves because of those super quick combos from standstill. But compared to PvP, What about PvE? These weapons don't fulfill the same kind of important niche that they do in PvP, where, you know, the best poise option for close range and hyper fast attacks is a useful thing. That matters less in PvE because we're probably not going to have enough poise damage anyway to stagger any big bosses. For that, you need a really big colossal weapon. That means where it is relevant, say small scale enemies in the open world that have a lot less poise in general, these things are going to destroy those because you'll just infinitely stagger them, allowing for the blind massive combos and the big damage behind that. The raw burst and combo isn't as effective when standing and spamming compared to, say, the claws, or especially the top of the pack for that, the daggers or bleed daggers, where those weapons just have higher output because they have more attacks and they're faster. But that doesn't mean the fists here are bad. Some fights, poise damage will count, like Renala. It's amazing to stagger someone like that and burst her super quick because she's got so low poise. And the damage is still very respectable. You can burst down bosses no problem at all, even with your shorter combos, and just use the blind poise to make it happen. As said before, after testing both claws and daggers, the claws feel the better option for PvP thanks to their range and interesting movesets, giving you mind games to work with. Whereas the daggers, they feel the best for PvE thanks to just the raw damage potential. The fists fit into this more on the PvP side of things again, due to the poise benefit. Where the claws feel great with a range of mind games, the fists are the more honest, trading focused fighters, making them an easier pick to pick up and play without much effort, the easiest of the three to play. In PvE, ultimately you'll spam your running attacks for the shorter punish windows, while making best use of full standing combos wherever possible. That'll allow you to deal the most damage in those longer windows. So a simple and effective, honest playstyle, the fists are feeling good, and after all, any weapon that can one cycle a new game plus Godric has good DPS and good burst at that. Okay, so let's go over the build, which is honestly going to be pretty straightforward this time. It's an honest build, as I've been saying, so it's straightforward. The Occult Star Fist are what we're running. The reason we run Occult over, say, Bleed is because we still get the massive Bleed build-up by having really high Arcane anyway, but because we're in Occult, our Arcane scaling is very high at a B grade, so that increases our AR, our physical damage, massively, while also massively improving the Bloodlust build-up, which, as you can see, is just below 80. That's more than enough to work with, which is why, of course, we're running the White Mask and the Lord of Blood's Exultation. Both of these items will increase our attack power when a bleed occurs. Our seal of choice is the Dragon Communio seal because, of course, running Arcane, so this is the Arcane seal. And it's up to you to pick basically the heaviest, highest poise armor that you can run with this build. I really like the Beast Champion set because I'm just on the line of over-encumbered with only 18 endurance. But technically, you could go higher, go heavier, maybe even go for Bull Goats at the cost of other resources. Now, because we're building our damage through successive attacks, the Talisman's Millicent's Prosthesis and Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, these are vital because that does exactly that, improving our damage as we land more and more attacks. Lastly, the last talisman's a filler slot. I always like this for general content. Erdtree's Favor gives you health, stamina, and equip load. But like I said, if you wanted to go really heavy, you could use maybe the Great Jar's Arsenal, or in PvP, find a way to get the Bull Goat's Talisman to work. Our Wondrous Physic doesn't matter too much. Obviously, you want the Thorny Crack tier for the successive attack power hits. And then the second is up to you. In PvP, I always like the Crimson Bubble tier for free-for-all battles, but maybe stamina regen for PvE is another option. The incantations we're running with 25 Faith, a Golden Vow, and of course Flame Grant Me Strength to further boost our AR. And our PvP incantation for offensive ability is Swarm of Flies, due to its utility. Lastly, our stats then. We've maxed out the Vigor at 60. We don't need any mind points because nothing costs too much. 18 Endurance is what we're using to run this heavier armor. I have no levels in Strength or Dex, just the Talismans pumping those a little bit. 25 Faith for the incantations, and 80 Arcane for the cap, and get the maximum value out of that. And those are our stats. So, there you have it. That is the build for these Star Fists. Ultimately, the three close range weapons of fists, daggers, and claws all have their own unique purpose and place. All are more than viable, they're meta-worthy. The fists seem to have the lowest potential of the three, but are the easiest to pick up and play, and rely upon their higher poise compared to the other two. Cragblade, while nerfed again slightly in 1.08, gives the fist that perfect option to allow for trading in PvP easily. With some clever use of the instant running attack wind-ups, you can overcome the shorter range of these weapons, and of course, they are competitive in PvE, where their DPS potential is still very high. I'm very happy with them, they feel strong as hell, a very important patch for all three short-range weapon types. Let me know what you think though, and if there's any weapon or anything you want me to look at for a build next time, then let me know in the comments. But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.